The vastness of space, where billions of stars burn brightly like torches lighting the path through the endless night, has witnessed countless tragedies and triumphs. But amid the grand tales of civilizations, the fall of empires, or brutal wars, there are always small moments that ignite hope, like a tiny flame in the heart of a storm. Vorthan Prime, a once peaceful world, now lies shrouded in the darkness of despair. An industrial disaster has turned its atmosphere into a toxic brew, threatening the lives of millions. In the face of this dire situation, the medical ship Serenity, a symbol of humanitarianism crossing the boundaries of the stars, sets off on what seems to be an impossible mission. Yet not all abide by the inviolable laws of the galaxy. Amid the tranquil space, where the beams from distant stars still shine as reminders of eternity, another darkness lurks. The Umbra Horde, a mysterious insurgent force, emerges like a nightmare. They carry with them a fury not only directed at Serenity but also at every sacred value the galaxy has ever known. What is it that makes a small medical ship and a forgotten fleet the focal point of galactic history? And in the battle between humanitarianism and the darkness of hatred, will the light be strong enough to pierce the night? The Serenity, nearly 2 kilometers long and equipped with the most advanced medical systems ever developed, drifts silently through space. Its polished hull gleams, reflecting the light from the central star of the Astrian system, resembling a giant gem. Serenity is not just a ship, it is a symbol of humanity's reach beyond borders. Inside the ship, long corridors are lit by soft white lights, and holographic screens display information about the upcoming mission. On the medical decks, thousands of doctors, technicians, and volunteers are working with urgency and intensity. They come from planets across the galaxy, representing the spirit of unity within the Galactic Council. Captain Amara Vanya, who has led Serenity through dozens of difficult missions, stands at the helm. Her silver-trimmed white uniform signifies the respect and responsibility she bears. Her face, calm yet taut with concern, glances over the detailed map of Vorthan Prime. The toxic gas has spread to 70% of the planet's surface, reports Engineering Officer Andrin Kale. The time for residents in the contaminated areas to survive without intervention is less than 48 hours. Our top priority is to evacuate those in the most critical condition and stabilize them aboard the ship. Amara nods, her gaze scanning the 3D image of Vorthan Prime slowly rotating. This is an important resource mining world in the star system, home to millions of workers and their families living in concentrated settlements. But disaster struck when a superconducting beryllium mine exploded, releasing large amounts of cyanum gas into the atmosphere. This is not just a medical mission, Amara says, her voice firm yet retaining her characteristic gentleness. This is a statement that the Galactic Council will not abandon anyone, no matter how far they live in the galaxy. On the main medical deck, Chief Physician Kalen Morov and his team are making final checks on the equipment. Hundreds of medical beds with life-supporting devices are being readied. Mobile analysis machines can immediately assess toxicity levels and suggest appropriate treatment protocols. Kalen, a doctor from Earth, has dedicated more than 30 years of his life to humanitarian missions across the galaxy. When we get there, remember, we're not just healing bodies, we're also healing the pain of the soul, he says to his team. Each of us may be the last light they see in this darkness. Meanwhile, in the flight control room, Chief Engineer Illyra Mithan is overseeing the gravity engine systems. Serenity is not a warship, but its energy shields are strong enough to withstand minor collisions in space and protect the medical areas from radiation. Illyra, with her short platinum hair and sharp eyes, is the one who designed some of the ship's most critical defense systems. I want everything to run perfectly, she says, her voice resolute. If something goes wrong, I want to know about it before the machines even pick it up. As Serenity approaches the orbit of Vortan Prime, rescue teams are ready. They are suited in white protective suits equipped with advanced air filtration systems. Smaller shuttlecraft have been prepared to transport the most critically affected civilians aboard the ship. Amara enters the command room, where the communication signal from Vortan Prime has just been received. A 3D image of Governor Vortan, a tall, gaunt man with a hollowed face, appears. His voice is filled with worry. "Serenity, thank you for coming," he says. "The situation is worse than we expected. The toxic gas has begun to infiltrate densely populated areas. We cannot handle this on our own." "Governor, we will do everything we can," Amara replies. "Please ensure that all affected areas are mapped in detail so we can optimize our rescue efforts." When the communication ends, Amara turns to her team. "This will be a tough mission, but we've prepared for this. Every second counts." Though the Serenity projects an aura of strength and determination, inside, everyone feels the weight of the pressure mounting. They know that even the smallest mistake could cost thousands of lives. But they all share one belief, that humanity and other species within the Galactic Council, no matter where they come from, can unite and overcome any challenge. As the ship prepares to enter the action phase, everyone looks up at the central screen, which shows an image of Vortan Prime, a planet with deep fissures and toxic smoke rising like eerie, shadowy figures. They know this is the moment their humanity will be tested, and the light of hope will have to be strong enough to pierce through the night. The radar on Serenity blared with persistent alarms, shattering the usual silence of space. Captain Amara Vanya immediately sensed something unusual. On the 3D screen, a series of unidentified signals appeared, moving quickly like shadows in the endless darkness of space. "Officer Kale, report immediately," Amara commanded, her voice sharp but calm. Kale swept his hand across the control panel, and analysis charts quickly appeared. Multiple unidentified objects. Small in size, but moving at extremely high speeds. They're coming from behind the orbit of Vortan Prime. The approach distance is under 200,000 kilometers. Amara narrowed her eyes, her heart racing. Serenity was a medical ship, not equipped for combat like the other military vessels of the Galactic Council. They were protected by space law, but her instincts told her the incoming enemy would not be bound by such rules. "Raise the energy shields to maximum. Send a warning signal, confirming our identity as a medical ship." A worried voice came over the comm from Chief Engineer Illyra Mithan in the engine control room. "Captain, they're within firing range. If they don't stop, we won't have time to react." In an instant, the screen before them lit up with blinding red flashes. Plasma balls hurtled toward them, slamming into Serenity's energy shields. The massive explosions rocked the ship, throwing everyone aboard into chaos. "Level 1 alert," Amara shouted. "All medical teams, protect the patients. Engineering team, check for damage." Their attackers, the Umbra Horde, wasted no time. Dark, jagged warships, resembling predatory creatures in the void, closed in. They didn't just fire on Serenity's engine and control systems, they were aiming directly at the medical compartments, where the patients were being evacuated. Kale looked up at the screen with a stunned expression. "They're deliberately targeting the medical areas. This is a blatant violation of the Galactic Treaty." Amara clenched her teeth, a feeling of helplessness creeping in. But she refused to let it take control. "We have no choice. Activate all emergency defense measures." Security team, ensure no Umbra forces make it aboard. In the medical deck, chaos erupted. Doctors and nurses, accustomed to healing, were now forced to defend their patients with whatever they had at hand. Chief Dr. Kalin Morov, always calm, now wielded a small plasma gun, leading a group of doctors as they evacuated patients to safer areas of the ship. Stay calm. Make sure life support equipment goes with the patients. Don't leave anyone behind. Kalin shouted as he guided his team. However, the brutality of the Umbra Horde far exceeded any nightmare they had faced. A squad of Umbra soldiers, wearing reflective armor and armed with advanced weapons, infiltrated through one of the compartments damaged by plasma fire. They stormed straight toward the medical center, indifferent to the screams of the innocent. Illyra, from the engine control room, tried to restore the automated systems. She shouted into the comm, her voice filled with anger. "Captain, the energy shields are at only 40%. If we don't do something, they'll completely destroy the ship in minutes." Amara knew this, but she also knew that Serenity couldn't retaliate. "We won't fight like savages. Focus on protecting the patients and medical areas. Send an emergency signal to the Galactic Council immediately." She stood tall, her eyes burning with unwavering resolve. In a brief moment, she grabbed the microphone and broadcasted a message. "This is Captain Amara Vanya of the medical ship Serenity. We are under attack by the Umbra Horde. They are not just attacking us, they are attacking innocent patients, violating every law of the galaxy. We are not fighting for our own survival, but for the hope of the entire galaxy. Come and save us before it's too late." The message was sent, lost into the void of space, heading toward the nearest communication stations. Meanwhile, Serenity's security teams, armed with only basic weapons, struggled to hold off the Umbra raiders in the narrow hallways. In the medical area, a small battle broke out as Umbra soldiers tried to reach the critical patient ward. Dr. Kalin, with unexpected courage, shot down an Umbra soldier threatening a group of patients. His hands trembled, but his gaze remained steadfast. "I'm not a warrior," he whispered to himself, as if reminding himself. "But I won't let anyone harm those we swore to protect." Explosions, flashing lights from collisions, and screams echoed throughout Serenity. Despite suffering heavy damage, the ship's spirit remained unbroken. They knew that, although the risk of failure was great, every second they endured could make the difference between life and death. Outside, Umbra warships continued their relentless bombardment, determined to obliterate the symbol of humanitarianism. But inside Serenity, the brave souls from the captain to the doctors stood firm, turning themselves into living shields for the fragile lives they had sworn to protect. In the deep, dark recesses of the galaxy, where the light from distant stars was but faint, flickering specks, a powerful fleet rose from the shadows. The Phoenix Fleet, once thought to be nothing more than a legend, a story told during the wars of a bygone generation, now emerged in all its majesty and strength. Led by Admiral Kale Orion, the Phoenix was not just an army, it was the symbol of the final hope when everything seemed on the verge of collapse. Admiral Kale Orion, a man with a resolute demeanor, stood on the bridge of the flagship Aegis Eternum. His eyes swept over the three-dimensional map in front of him, displaying the locations of Serenity and the Umbra Horde warships. His hand clenched into a fist, but his voice remained as calm as ever, a calmness he knew would inspire the entire fleet. "The Umbra Horde has made their greatest mistake, they dared to attack the sacred symbol of humanity," he declared, his voice ringing out across the command room. "They didn't just attack Serenity, they attacked everything we stand for. The Phoenix will not stand idly by." The orders were given. Each ship in the fleet, from the nimble destroyers to the massive warships carrying devastating energy cannons, began to move. A combat formation was deployed, and reconnaissance ships quickly broke from the formation to search for traces of the enemy. Meanwhile, the distress signals from Serenity continued to echo across communication channels, accompanied by chilling images of the Umbra Horde's assault. Patience weak, innocent humans were ruthlessly slaughtered, medical areas were turned into battlefields. Admiral Orion knew that time was of the essence. "Tactical team, give me full details on the Umbra Horde," Orion commanded, and a stream of data appeared before him. Umbra Horde, a mysterious separatist force, was not merely a group of space pirates. They were organized, armed with advanced technology, and willing to use any means necessary to achieve their goals. They believed in absolute power and acknowledged no treaties or laws within the galaxy. "We won't give them a chance to retreat," Orion said. "Activate Operation Firebird. We will hunt them down and destroy them ship by ship, base by base. Leave no trace of this betrayal." The hunt began. The reconnaissance ships discovered traces of the Umbra Horde near an abandoned planet, where they were hiding behind asteroid belts. Phoenix swiftly deployed a siege formation. On the Aegis Eternum, a palpable tension filled the air as the fleet prepared to enter its first battle in decades. Orion stepped forward to the display screen showing live footage from the reconnaissance ships. The Umbra warships, with their dark, jagged hulls and spiky shapes, lay in wait like predators ready to strike. "The Umbra Horde probably thinks we'll hesitate to attack here," Orion said with a cold smile. "They've forgotten that the Phoenix is not just a fleet, but the nightmare of those who dare challenge the Alliance." The order to attack was given. Every ship in the Phoenix fleet fired simultaneously, beams of laser and energy cannons tearing through the darkness. The surrounding space erupted in massive explosions, with metal fragments scattering everywhere as Umbra's ships were destroyed. However, the Umbra Horde was not an enemy to be easily overcome. They retaliated fiercely with advanced energy weapons. A brutal battle ensued, every moment a tug of war between life and death. Meanwhile, the Aegis Eternum served as the center, commanding the entire operation. Orion remained astonishingly calm, issuing precise and swift orders. He knew that his composure was the anchor for the entire fleet. "Delta formation, surround them from the left. Defense team, protect the destroyers. We cannot afford to lose any ships," he commanded, his voice booming across the bridge. The battle raged for hours, but with each passing minute, Phoenix's superiority became more apparent. The strength and coordination of the fleet proved far more effective than the chaos of the Umbra forces. As the battle neared its end, a signal was transmitted from the largest Umbra ship, a massive command vessel armed with powerful energy weapons. A cold voice rang out over the comms. "Admiral Orion, you may destroy us, but you cannot destroy our ideals. We are the darkness, and darkness never fades." Orion smirked. "The darkness may exist, but the light always finds a way to push it back. And we are the light." He ordered the entire fleet to fire upon the Umbra command ship, delivering a decisive blow. The ship exploded in a blinding burst, taking the core forces of the Umbra Horde with it. When the battle ended, the Phoenix fleet stood silently among the wreckage of their enemies, not a single cheer of victory. Orion turned away, looking toward the screen displaying Serenity's location. "We are not just fighting to win," he said, his eyes gleaming with pride. "We are fighting to protect the best things this galaxy has to offer. Let's bring Serenity home safely." Serenity, though severely damaged, stood firm as an unbreakable symbol. The medical bays, once bustling with the sounds of healing equipment, had fallen silent, replaced by a somber atmosphere filled with sorrow. Despite the losses, the surviving medical team refused to let grief overshadow their mission. They quickly made repairs, utilizing what remained to continue their task on Vorthan Prime. Vorthan Prime loomed ahead, a tragic sight with fields contaminated and cities swallowed by toxic fog. The residents, who had already endured both physical and mental suffering, awaited relief from Serenity as their final hope. Captain Amaravania, though exhausted from recent events, inspired the entire crew. "We've made it through the worst," she said, her gaze resolute. "Now, it's time to fulfill the mission Serenity was created for." On the ground, the medical team of Serenity swiftly set up field treatment stations. Patients, from the elderly to the young, were moved to safe zones for examination and care. These scenes not only eased the suffering of the people of Vorthan but also sent a powerful message: humanitarian aid would never yield to violence. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Phoenix Fleet had brought Lin, the leader of the Umbra Horde, to face justice at the Galactic Court. This trial was not just a legal event, it was a symbol of unity among the planets. Here, representatives from dozens of races, each with a history of conflict, sat together, witnessing the judgment of one who had dared challenge the galaxy's order. In a massive courtroom on the central planet, Seal Stara, Lin tall, cold-eyed, and unrepentant stood before the court. He showed no remorse and even challenged the representatives of the Galactic Union. "Do you think you can destroy my ideals?" Lin's voice boomed across the room. "The Umbra Horde is not just me. We are the dream of those who reject your weakness, of a galaxy shackled by meaningless treaties." Admiral Kale Orion, representing the Phoenix, stood to respond. "Lin, your ideals are not about strength, they are about chaos. And we've proven that, even in darkness, the light of humanity remains the strongest force," he said, his piercing gaze fixed on Lin. The trial concluded with a sentence: Lin would spend the rest of his life in an off-world prison, where he could no longer spread his chaos. However, the attack on Serenity had left a scar in the hearts of the galaxy's nations. Debates erupted at the Galactic Council on how to protect medical vessels in the future. Eventually, a new treaty was passed, the Vorthan Treaty, a binding commitment from every planet to ensure the safety of humanitarian missions. Under this treaty, anyone who attacked medical ships would face the harshest penalties from all member nations. The creation of the Vorthan Treaty marked a major turning point in galactic history. It not only strengthened trust between planets but also promoted cooperation and unity among races. Back on Serenity, the tireless efforts of the medical staff had saved thousands of residents of Vorthan Prime. Stories of children pulled back from the brink of death, families reunited in tears, inspired the entire galaxy. Amaravania, standing on the bridge of Serenity, looked out toward Vorthan Prime through the large window. Though her ship had suffered heavy losses, the pride in her heart was unshakable. "When we save a life, we don't just save one person," she said, her warm voice echoing through the ship's comms system. "We save the future, the hope that humanity will always triumph over cruelty." Serenity departed Vorthan Prime, leaving behind a planet in the process of healing. But the ship didn't return in silence. Stories of Serenity's courage and sacrifice spread across the galaxy, becoming an inspiration for future generations. As for the Phoenix Fleet, their appearance was not just a military victory but a reminder that the galaxy would always have forces ready to protect peace and justice, even in the darkest of times. The Phoenix Fleet, after its victory over the Umbra Horde, was no longer a mysterious force hidden by the sands of time. They had become a symbol of determination and collective strength, a testament to the unyielding will of intergalactic civilizations. Officers and soldiers, from seasoned veterans to young recruits, now stood atop the pinnacle of glory, yet the weight of their responsibility had never been greater. At the Phoenix Command Center, Admiral Kale Orion convened with senior officers to discuss the future of the fleet. One important question arose: should Phoenix continue its role as an emergency response unit, or should it become a permanent shield guarding peace across the galaxy? "We can't allow something like the Umbra Horde to happen again," Kale said, his gaze resolute as he looked around at the faces in the room. "But we must also remember that strength does not lie in weapons, but in the humanity we protect." While Phoenix was redefining its role, the story of Serenity had spread across the star systems. Planets that had once remained neutral or skeptical about intergalactic cooperation began to reconsider their stance. The images of doctors, nurses, and technicians aboard Serenity, fighting not only against enemies but also against the fear and despair that had moved the hearts of billions, had become a beacon of hope. The planet Aurora Nexus, a nation that had previously refused to join the Galactic Union, held an emergency conference to reconsider its decision. Their representative, a young politician named Illyra Thorne, addressed the council. "We have witnessed the light of humanity shining from places where hope seemed lost. If we turn our backs on those values, we will lose ourselves." The Aurora Nexus Council unanimously voted to join the Galactic Union, bringing with it resources, technology, and people eager to contribute. This move created a domino effect, as other planets, from the farthest reaches of the galaxy, began to seek a place at the negotiating table. On Serenity, Captain Amara Vania and her crew faced a new challenge. The ship needed repairs, and the team had to restructure after heavy losses. Still, Amara knew that their mission was far from over. "Serenity is not just a ship," Amara told her crew during a ship-wide meeting. "We are a symbol of hope. Every crack, every loss on this ship is a testament to our resilience. And we will keep moving forward, not just for ourselves, but for all those who are counting on us." Amara's determination spread to every member of the team, from the newly graduated young doctors to the seasoned technicians. They set to work repairing and upgrading Serenity, hoping the ship would emerge stronger than ever. Meanwhile, the Galactic Union passed a new initiative, the Galactica Beacon. This project aimed to create a network of protected relief stations and medical ships across the galaxy, ensuring no dark corner would be left behind. Phoenix and Serenity would play a leading role in deploying this initiative. In distant star systems, remnants of the Umbra Horde still lingered. Small factions continued to try and regroup, posing a potential threat. But now, the unity of the galaxy had become a bastion against these dangers. Phoenix, under Kale Orion's command, and Serenity, with its unwavering humanitarian spirit, continued their mission as beacons guiding the way through the darkness. Stories from future generations often spoke of the battle between Phoenix and the Umbra Horde as a period that tested willpower and unity. But above all, they always reminded each other of Amara Vania's words. "Light always starts from the smallest flames." And that light, born from Serenity and Phoenix, continued to burn bright, lighting the way for future generations across the vast galaxy. Peace had once again covered the galaxy, but it was not the silent stillness of death. It was the vibrant pulse of millions of worlds, where the light of humanity continued to spread, stronger than ever. Serenity, despite its scars that could never be erased, moved forward, ready for new journeys. At the command center of the Phoenix Fleet, Admiral Kale Orion gazed at the galaxy-wide display. A faint light from distant planets flickered like a greeting from the worlds that had once been saved. "We've won," he whispered, "but the road ahead is still long." On Vortan Prime, survivors stepped out of quarantine zones, breathing in fresh air for the first time since the disaster. They looked up to the sky, where Serenity hovered like a guardian angel. To them, the ship was not just a savior but a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, humanity remained a torchbearer. But the story did not end there. On the other side of the galaxy, survivors of the Umbra Horde were still lurking in the shadows. A whisper on encrypted radio channels, "The light won this time, but darkness is never completely extinguished." Serenity continued its journey, and Phoenix remained steadfast as a wall of protection. Their story was not just about war, but about faith and the will to rise above adversity. In the light of distant stars, the old question still echoed: would the light always have enough power to stand against the darkness? The answer, as the galaxy continually reminded itself, lay in every small flame lit, little by little, in the vast emptiness of space.